My handwriting is small today, like I feel today. Small, secretive. It is fall. Small creatures are preparing for winter. Leaves are decaying. I am sitting on a small bench in a small park. A woman enters. I've seen her before. She wears an apron. Her pockets are full. She pushes a shopping cart. It is full. She looks around, satisfies herself that she is where she wants to be. She pushes the cart over to this
Let's
bench.
see. An inventory of items.
She begins to speak,
Bench,
but not
lace.
to me.
Ugh.
She
Faded
acts
lace.
as if I'm
White
invisible.
fabric, cheesecloth, gauze, off-white, aged, like me. Pigeon shit white, as my grandmother might have said. Paint for the bench, paint for the face, stockings for the legs, spray for the hair, cornstarch, powders, dust, newspapers.
She places the newspapers on the ground around the end of the bench. She takes a small can of paint from the cart and opens it with a screwdriver which she has pulled from her left pocket. She replaces the screwdriver and takes a brush from her right pocket. She begins to paint the bench. She paints it white.
To begin with, I was the younger sister of a troubled household. How troubled, you ask? I'll get to that. Labdacus was an old fart. Well, I don't know that firsthand. I just remember the stories my mother's nurse used to tell me about him. His son's stubbornness was inherited, and his son's stubbornness was concentrated, like insecticide in the food chain, like orange juice in the frozen food department. Oh, it was simmered down to a thick paste of obstreperousness. A marvelous word, isn't it? Obstreperous. Like all the other ob words. Obdurate, obnoxious, obsolete, obscure, obvious, obliterate, obfuscate, obliquity. From the Latin, ob, taken from the Greek, epi, corrupted to opi. Yes, obliquity is ultimately Greek in origin. Isn't everything? So, Labdacus was outlived by his wife, but only by a few weeks. And although his wife was a somewhat more rational creature, she had no influence whatsoever on her son. And both of them died shortly after their grandson was born. My mother's nurse said it was partly the shock of the prophecy, partly the shock of what his son did about it. Infanticide wasn't entirely uncommon, but it certainly was not known in your better households. My mother's nurse, who became my nurse, was one of the few people who always saw me. Labdacus's wife, who must have had a name, though I can never remember hearing one, had wanted the child, you see. My father. She wanted to raise him. He was her first grandchild. The nurse told me all of this. She was around during all of it. She liked to listen and she liked to talk. She told me all the stories, then died at an incredibly old age, but not as old as me. Perhaps that goes without saying, which generally seems to mean that it must be said. As to authenticity, well, I don't know if that's really such an issue. I think the crucial thing is that I remember it all. For me, my authenticity is unchallenged. And now there is a witness, you see. A witness to the witnessing.
She has reached the point where I sit. She seems to see me for the first time. We stare intently at each other. Finally, I get up. And she continues painting. I move the papers for her.
My earliest memory is of the other three. My brothers fighting, and my sister taking sides with Polynicus. And I would burst into tears because they frightened me. I wanted them to stop. She called me a ninny and pulled my hair. So you see, we are who we are, even from the first.
And who is
that?
Who
am I?
is she?
Ismene.
Antigone's sister?
I want some tea. Is there tea around here?
I'm sure there is. I could find some.
Would you please? Oh, forgive me if I don't share with any of you. See, my grandmother on my mother's side, as opposed to my grandmother on my father's side, who was, of course, my own mother, used to tease me when I was very young, saying that if I sipped her tea, I would grow old as she was. Age, she said, was a contagion, a plague. So she kept it from me by refusing to let me drink from her cup. She never approved of what my mother did. It was her first grandchild, too, and she, too, had wanted to keep the baby, raise it herself. She never liked Laius anyway. She felt that the notion of him being killed wasn't that upsetting, and she assumed the other part of the prophecy was pure and simple bullshit. She said so. She talked like that. I don't use language like that myself unless it's a direct quote of someone else. Like my grandmother. She had this way of snorting and cackling at the same time. Many old women can do this. And she would snort and cackle and say, "How can a boy marry his own mother unless she allows it? And if she's perverse enough to allow it, why take it out on the child? Let him live, I say," she'd say, "and refuse to marry him. You control that choice. Oracles are bullshit." My mother tried to hedge her bets, as you know, but it backfired. That's the tricky thing about oracles. The more you try to circumvent fate, the more it tracks you down. An interesting dilemma if you don't like the hand you're dealt. Thank you, my dear. You're very kind. Shall we sit down?
Why is she talking to me? Why has she come to my park? I am small, a nobody.
I've often wondered, over the years, what would have happened if they'd decided to let the child live. The only answer I can come up with is that if Laius and Jocasta had been the kind of people who could have defied the oracle, then the oracle itself would never have been necessary.
What does she want from me?
And I've wondered over these many years, why me? What do I have to do with this?
In a sudden impulse, I ask her a question. How old are you?
Are you?
Ooh. I can't recall after so many years. It took me a while to realize what was happening, but I noticed it first in a tree. There was a particular tree. I planted it, I believe, though I may be mistaken about that. But it was planted, whether I did it or not, and it was planted around when I was 5 or 6. Now that much I am certain of because I remember quite clearly my 7th birthday. I cut a branch of blossoms from the tree to decorate the table with that day. Funny, isn't it, how those little details stay with you? I don't remember a thing about most of that year and most others in my life, but I remember that branch of flowers. I got off the track there, didn't I? I was telling you how I noticed. The tree grew. Year after year, it grew. And one year I realized I'd watched it bloom more often than seemed reasonable. And then one year it died. I never got older than I was in the stories. That has not always been easy for me. I've done a lot I'd rather never have to do again, but I'd do it all again if I had to. There's nothing suicidal about me, unlike some people I could name. How old am I? I am an old woman. A very old woman.
Is there more?
Temples to the glory of God. I wouldn't give you duck shit for all the temples in the world. I'm like my grandmother in that respect. Churches, mosques, synagogues, the whole bundle of them. Talk to God directly, I say. Keep the middleman out of it. Eliminate oracles. Forget fortune tellers. Prohibit priests. But most people won't tolerate an idea like that. You want proof? Look at what happened to my sister. I warned her, but she was hot-headed. Never would listen to me or reason.
Why do you think you've lived so long?
I've wondered that myself. I guess I must be a slow learner. My sister died because she was distracted by politics. I was distracted by fear. I don't pretend to know which is the better distraction. I can only observe that she died young, and I have yet to die, and I also cannot distinguish which of these two is preferable.
Tell me about your father.
He was a hot-headed, arrogant man. You knew that already. Custom would dictate that as his only surviving daughter, I now tell you a heartwarming anecdote about something he did when I was a child that belies this common notion. The truth is, there are no such stories. Something about being fated makes one very one-dimensional, I think. No room for subtlety or complexity when one is busy fulfilling an oracle. He was an arrogant man with an evil temper. That's all. My mother, I'm afraid, was also rather one-dimensional. She was very nervous, and she felt guilty, I suppose. I suppose she should have felt guilty. I think I am a great deal like her, only she is dead, of course. Are you like your mother?
I don't know. I don't think so. No. I really don't think so, but I don't know.
You're so quiet. Why?
I don't have anything to say.
Nothing at all?
Nothing important. Nothing profound. I've never been much of a talker.
Well, if one talks enough through the millennia, one is bound to say something profound sooner or later.
I'd rather listen. I like listening to you. You do seem immortal somehow. The things you say seem important to me.
Well, if one talks enough through the millennia, one just about covers it all. What were you writing when I got here?
Nothing much. I was just writing in my journal.
What do you write about?
What kind of a day it is, how I feel, what's going on around me. I wrote about you painting the bench.
Do you ever show what you write to anyone?
Oh no, that's not why I do it. I just like to think about things on the paper. I just like to think about things.
There's a real pleasure in that, isn't there? That's something that Creon never understood. Oh, he was all right as a statesman, but he was no philosopher. All action, no thought. Like my sister and her bull-headed brothers. Well, they were my brothers too, but I always called them her brothers to distinguish their actions from my own. I've gotten a lot more tolerant of them lately. Since they've been dead so many centuries, it makes it much easier to appreciate their good qualities. Back then, they were just bull-headed big brothers. There it is. Oh. Yeah. Pigeons. I've seen a lot of them go by. You probably couldn't even count all the pigeons I've seen go by. Well, except with a computer, I suppose. There have been a lot of pigeons live and die in this world. A lot. They've hardly changed a feather over all these centuries. They're nearly perfect just the way they are. Like cockroaches. You can write this down if you want to. One of the interesting things about being a myth is that you can watch yourself evolve as people adhere to this or that version of what you did. Perhaps evolve isn't the word I'm looking for here. Devolve may be more like it. You start off as a whole person. You have a childhood, a young adulthood, in some cases even more. And then one day, blam, something big happens. And from the point of view of the public, that's you. That's the sum total and the eternality of you. Oh, sometimes the rest of your life, if there is more to it, factors in some. My father, for example, reappears as an old, dying man. But the years in between, who knows what happened in those years? I don't. Antigone would never tell me. And yet, the truly most important things he ever did were probably during those very years of which there are no records.
Like all the time your father and mother spent together before. You know, when you were growing up, before.
Exactly. There are a lot of holes in the whole story. My mother was maybe 36, at most 40, when my father showed up in Thebes. He was about 20, maybe 21. When he died, all his own children were years older than that themselves. When he was banished, Antigone was old enough to leave with him. But when he died, she was still young enough to be attractive to Haman as a bride. It doesn't add up. Say my father was 40 when he put his eyes out. Say he was banished at 45. Say Antigone was then 14. That would make Eteocles 19, Polynicus 21, and me 12. Say he wandered at least 10 years. Only 55. Young to die. Yet in the myth, he's pictured as this old man. But in fact, younger than my mother when she died.
Maybe his misfortunes aged him before his time.
I have tried to validate my memories of these times by going back to the books, but I can't seem to find enough solid evidence for it. I went to see the plays, you know. Of course, no one knew it was me in the audience. I rather imagine they all thought that I had been dead a good, long time.
You were telling me?
I was telling you about how I went to see the plays. The first one was strange for me because I'd been so young when it happened. Not the first one produced, but the first in the sequence. Chronologically. From Chronos, time. I was seeing it not only from Sophocles' point of view, but from an adult point of view. You know, I remember my mother as a woman obsessed by duty. I don't think that's what comes across in the play. But think of this. What else could account for her willingness to put my father out there to die when he was just an infant? That is not normal motherly behavior.
Maybe she was afraid.
Afraid? Maybe she was. Maybe she was. When I got much older, several hundred years older, I finally realized how much she must have been plagued by guilt, and that her preoccupation with obligation was an expression of that.
Was she pretty?
I thought she was. She never let herself get old and dumpy, even though she was so much older than my father. Again, she saw it as her duty to keep young and attractive looking, for his sake. So it was no baklava for her. She gave it up centuries before most people even knew that it had been invented. See, there's a part of the story that the myth simply leaves out. No, we sure weren't the luckiest family around. I used to wonder about that. Why us? But for us kids, of course, the answer is pretty obviously, who else? I mean, we were in the thick of it from the moment of our conception. I've learned a lot over all these years. Maybe not quite enough yet, but a lot. As a child, I used to ponder over whether I'd be me if I had a different mother or a different father. Never came to any conclusions, just pondered away. Well, I am Greek, you know. What's the matter?
My pen is out of ink.
Oh. Have a look in my pocket. I'm sure there's one in there. Well, Ismene disappeared. That's how the books have it. There's no poem, no song about me. A little ironic, isn't it, that I'm the one who's actually still here. So, after my father blinded himself, we were brought up by Creon. Antigone and I, especially, we were brought up with Creon's sons. Haman and Antigone were great friends. I loved the younger son of Creon, named after his grandfather, Minucius, but he never seemed to notice me. He died in that same stupid war that took Polynicus and Eteocles. In fact, it was actually his death that saved Thebes, but because Sophocles didn't think that was an important detail, no one knows about it. Well, maybe if they read Edith Hamilton. Before you get settled, could you bring me another spot of tea? An old throat gets tired with all this storytelling. Too bad I don't have a willing avatar to speak for me. She's a nice girl, though. A good listener. I trust her. Oh, thank you, dear. Another one you don't hear too much about is Creon's wife. She was a gem, and she made the best baklava. She invented it. That's the truth. Say, there wouldn't happen to be baklava where you got this?
There's brownies.
Oh, never mind. I just thought it might be interesting to eat here in front of you. Then we could take a vote or something and see how many people thought it was untragic of me. I had some very profound thought there having to do with fate and choice and trade-offs, and it just flew the coop. Does that ever happen to you? One of the things that I find interesting is that the gods waited all those years to punish Thebes for the murder of Laius. If they'd really wanted to do it straight away, they could have. So they clearly intended us, the children of this ill-fated marriage, to be born. Whatever for? Simply as a part of my father's punishment? Or my mother's punishment? For daring to try to outwit the oracle in the first place? What in the world did we do to be punished so grandiosely? We were born to whom we were born. That is all. That is all any of us are guilty of, isn't it? Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's why some of your post-Greek theologians came up with this notion of original sin, this guilt inherent in the human race. It's a wonder when you stop to think about it that more of you haven't ended up like our family. So this myth you have of Adam and Eve, you say they lived in the Garden of Eden. I say that garden must have been in Greece because that is such a typical Greek setup. Make a person curious and then punish her for curiosity. That is a trick of Greek gods, I tell you. Adam and Eve must have been Greek. I understand there was a fellow here in the United States who said that if we had an atomic war and we had to start all over again, that he'd want Adam and Eve to be Americans. Isn't that perverse? To wish this whole unhappy history happen all over again. I wonder if I would die in an atomic war. So far, I've seemed to be indestructible. It's given me, at times, a profound sense of unreality. Why should I keep surviving? And to follow my earlier question a bit further, if there was a nuclear war and the entire human race, all living things perished, except me, what sense could there possibly be in that? Well, I don't quite know how I got onto such a morbid topic, but let's get off it, shall we? I left Thebes shortly after Antigone died. No one tried to stop me. No one asked me where I was going. No one noticed I left. I never married. I knew I didn't dare have any children, not after the run of luck in our family. The truth is, no one asked me to marry because no one saw me. It was as if I was invisible to people. I never consulted any oracles either. If there was more bad news to come, I didn't want to know about it. Or good news, for that matter. I just wanted to take each moment as it came. I've been doing that for some time now. If the oracle spouts in the forest and there's no one around to hear it, does it still come true? You see what I mean? Or to put it another way, he who forecasts history is doomed to repeat it. See, because repeating is doing something over again, so repeating is, oh, never mind. I didn't go far at first. I had a little cave I'd found just outside of Thebes, and I stayed there the first 100 years or so. It was very close to the cave that Antigone died in. It was up on a hillside, and if I climbed up it one way, I was hidden behind the brush. But I could look down on the entire city, and even on Creon's estate. I could even see my tree. I stayed there until my tree was struck by lightning. That seemed ominous to me, so I left then and headed to Athens. I spent the next 4 or 5 decades by my father's, well, by where my father did whatever he did when he died. I thought about that a lot, how he died and what that meant. Then I got tired of thinking about it, and so I stopped thinking about it and moved on. And so on and so forth until here I am before you today. Can you imagine what it would be like if people only ever said what truly mattered? I guess that's true already. I suppose we mustn't judge. Another funny thought just occurred to me. Suppose I lose my memory, completely forget who I am, yet keep on living and living. Suppose they found me, put me in a home of some kind. Do you think the staff would ever notice that I didn't die? Or would they move on to other jobs so regularly that no one would be around long enough to notice? Would they estimate my age for the records, say 30, and then notice in 30 years and 30 more after that I didn't change? Maybe they'd sell my story to the National Enquirer. Evidence of alien, geriatric patient never dies. Perhaps I should sell my story to the Twilight Zone before I forget what it is. Oh, my story, I mean. I don't think I'd be too terribly upset to forget what the Twilight Zone is. But if I were to forget myself, my own story, I would be rather upset. I should say the thought of that upsets me now. Because if it happened, I suppose I wouldn't remember enough to be upset. But the fact is, something is changing. I am getting old. No, really old. I feel like I'm close to something new. I wasn't sure for a while what it was. I think I'm going to die soon.
No.
I'll tell you how I know. I don't need to move anymore. I don't need to eat anymore. I sit here some days, for days at a time. I don't seem to need to do anything else. Everything seems to be slipping away from me. Slipping away. These things in the world, they don't have a hold on me. I can't remember why they seemed so important. That's why I think I'm dying. That's why I want you to write me down. But there's something yet to do. Something in the way. I want to die, but I can't. I don't know why I can't. You know, it's been a long time since I've had that much tea. I believe I need a little break. Would you watch my things for me while I take a little break?
Of course.
Thank you, dear. I'll be back in a few minutes.
I don't know why she picked me. She's quite a storyteller, though, isn't she? I have an older sister, too, but she never did anything very dramatic. No one in my family ever did anything very dramatic. What will the neighbors think is our family motto. Ismene, daughter of Yocasta, daughter of who? Yocasta, daughter of who? I like her, Ismene. I don't want her to die. I have come to this park every day for a very long time, and she is the first person who has ever spoken to me. The first one. Why does she have to die?
It's dark in there. Dark like the dreams I used to have. Oftentimes I would lie awake at night and bite my fingers so the pain would keep me from sleeping. I saw my sister so often in my dreams. She was never at peace. Never at peace. Once I even cried and screamed at her. "What is the point," I said, "of rubbing my face in it? I cannot help that I lived." Do you know who I really loved? Not Creon's son. He was a slave boy. It wouldn't have been allowed, of course. But oh, I wanted that boy. He worked in Creon's stable, taking care of the animals. He was so careful with them. What's funny is I watched him for a long time before I realized he was blind. Then I understood his exceptional caress with the horses. And I fevered myself with imaginations of how he would touch me if he were my husband. I spoke to him once. I disguised my voice, tried to sound like another slave, but he knew right away it was a hoax. I terrified him. He even knew it was me, Ismene. Everybody's got a specialty. His was touch. Mine is survival. It's something I do very well. Survival has to do with diplomacy, adaptation, meekness, if you will. The weakness in meekness is this. By the time you inherit the earth, you may not want it because all the bold dead ones who have gone before you have trashed it so. Irony is really the fundamental element in the universe. You are meek. We'll see where it gets you. I made a deal with her, you know. She listens to me, records my story. I make a published author out of her.
What?
I have a lot of friends in the publishing business. You know, when you live as long as I have, you've had a long time to make a lot of friends. Or a lot of enemies for the same reason. Of course, friend or enemy, they all still keep dying.
No, we didn't make a deal.
Oh, see, the trouble with her is that she never wants to let anyone know she's really human. Never wants to eat on stage, know what I mean?
Why are you talking about me?
Ooh, she's getting annoyed. You know, I'd just go find someone else to talk to, but I've invested so much time in her. More than she suspects. Look at it this way. An agent gets, measly 10%? But you can keep it all. What do you think of that, huh? Can't you take a joke? People without humor don't get into heaven, you know. That's what hell is, no joke.
Stop doing that.
I would like some white flowers to go along with this. Yes, irises, I think, painted entirely white.
What are you doing? Why are you doing that?
I saw them both do it. I was inside the palace when my mother rushed in. She didn't see me. I was afraid of her. She seemed so wild. I was hiding behind curtains in the hallway. When she ran into her room, I followed and peeked in. She was twisting a cord from the draperies into a noose, but I didn't understand yet what she was doing. She was crying. Raging at Laius, raging at fate, raging at Oedipus, at the oracles, at the shepherd, at herself. I should have kept him or I should have killed him myself, she said. She even raged at the cord because she had trouble tying it. Then she threw it over a beam and fastened it with the brooch she always wore at her left shoulder. When she put her head in the noose, I realized what was about to happen. "Mama!" I called to her, but she was oblivious. Oblivious. Then she was up on the stool and up through the air, snapped like a rag doll, hanging there, twisting back and forth, twirling around. A broken neck looks so wrong on a person. I ran into the room. I had some notion that I could get her down somehow and make her speak to me. Then he came in, roared, like something that came from the middle of the earth itself. I just stood there, invisible, I guess. He didn't see me. I was not part of his fate, I suppose. He tore the rope down and left my mother lying there in a twisted heap. Then he grabbed the brooch and pulled it into his eye. Then the other eye. People came running and the commotion began. Wails, shrieks. I slipped out of the room and I ran to tell Antigone. She didn't believe me at first. She called me a liar at first and pulled my hair. Then Creon came to get us. Our father was calling for us, he said. Creon took us to him. He didn't see me standing there by my dead mother, and now he was howling about how he'd never see us again. I remember crying then, finally. I knew then that things were going to be irrevocably different. Now I am here because everyone has overlooked me, including death itself. Listen to me. Listen to me! A child, wide-eyed with wonder, is invisible. And what does this invisible seer see? This invisible child behind brocade curtains? She sees the fabric, the very fabric of it all. Each thread that wove the final design, each place the sun has faded, each fiber weakened by age. She sees her mother hang herself, her father blind himself, her sister doom herself. I saw more than Tiresias saw. Tiresias was old, with bad breath like rotten toads. He got to die. Why not me? Why don't I get to die? You see, don't you? It is my right to die. I have come here to your little park to die. I expect you to help me. I need to look old. I want to look old. I feel so old. So we went to live at Creon's. And Haman fell in love with Antigone. Creon's wife was very nice. You don't hear too much about her. I can't remember her name anymore, but then again, no one else does either. Let's rename her. Let's call her Martha.
That's my name.
Let's name her after you. Creon and Martha and their handsome son Haman, who fell in love with my doomed sister Antigone, and their other son who never wanted to marry me anyway. And then Antigone got it in her head to go with our father when Creon gave him the boot. Haman was all the more smitten with her when she did that. Thought it showed spirit to do what she did. I was in the kitchen making baklava when Antigone and my father, left town. I knew if I went to see them off, no one would notice me anyway. So I went to the kitchen. I was making sweet things out of nuts and dough when Haman came by. "Wait," he called to the procession. And he grabbed my pastries and ran out to them, holding out the treats as a bon voyage offer. They stopped just long enough to receive them. And Antigone said to Haman, "Tell Ismene, father and I will find our exile much less bitter because of this sweet gift from her." She talked like that. Like she knew she'd go down in dramatic and literary history someday. Well, Haman came in and told me that, and I didn't know what he was talking about. In that instant, I'd put them out of my mind completely, repressed them, just like in Freud. Oh, yes, I know about Freud. I have followed every version of every story about my family that has ever been produced, published, performed, or parodied. But it was repression I was talking about. I began to rub my eyes. I rubbed them so much that they would swell shut. No one knew what to do about it. Creon wanted to keep my hands tied behind my back to break me of the habit. Martha put her foot down on that one. Eventually, I was able to remember again. But now, I want it to be over. I want the remembering to be over. I want the whole thing to be over. Tell the end of my story, Martha. I am so very old. I just want to die.
She's so different now. This Ismene is mortal. She sleeps on a sagging bed in a transient hotel, has a hot plate in her room, shops at the Grand Union, rolls her nylons down around her ankles like sausages.
How else? What else?
She needs something. She needs a guide. Antigone, she bellows.
Antigone!
The veins pop out like relief maps of grief. She is tired. She is crusty. She stands in a wind-swept, empty city park. Pigeons dot the pavement. Packages, bottles, bits of cellophane and cigarette butts swirl around her ankles. Small dust clouds flurry by. She and the pigeons. She and the dust.
Where are you?
She bellows.
I am not coming down in an unmarked car. I want an attendant. Give up the grudge. Give up the Greeker-than-me stuff. That's it.
She has had a revelation.
That's it. I can't die until you forgive me. And you're too damn stubborn to do that even after 3,000 years!
She stamps her foot on a pile of pigeon shit and papers and screams down through the bricks.
Give it up! Forgive me. I was afraid. It's not the worst crime. If it was the worst crime, why not my eyes get put out? Why not me hang myself?
The pigeons circle her warily.
This is it then. Eternal life, right here. Ismene in hell. Oh no, you can't do this to me. Leave me unburied like this. If it was wrong not to bury Polynicus, then it has got to be wrong not to bury me.
She takes a stick and begins to pound the ground, rhythmically, 4/4 time, 3 beats pound, 1 beat rest. Pound, 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 rest. Pound, 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 rest.
Let me in!
Rest.
Let me in!
Rest.
Let me in!
So she goes on
Let
and
me
on,
in!
pounding her stick
Let
on the
me
pavement
in!
and chanting at it.
Let me
Finally,
in!
weary,
Let
she
me
rests.
in!
She leans heavily on the stick and begins to cry.
I'm sorry
She cries.
that I was imperfect, that I was afraid, that I am mortal who am still scared of my mortality, but I must die. You must let me die.
Ismene sags to her knees. She digs a hole in the ground with her bare hands, knuckles stretched, taut and white. It is a small hole in a small park.
You can't keep me out anymore.
She shouts down to the earth.
I have a right to die. I have a right to be buried. You have no right to keep me from my afterlife.
It is impossible. She can't actually dig through to the center of the earth. Yet she needs, she deserves some kind of peace.
All right, then. I see now how I have to do it. This is the last thing I have to say to you. I am an ordinary woman. I am no greater than, no less than average. I have seen extraordinary things. They have become my ordinary. I have outlived them. No one has written plays about me. No one has named their complexes after me. No one studies me in their humanities classes. I am not even in your dictionaries. But I'm still here. And I will stay here. A monument to myself. This is my obituary. I have endured. I have survived. My eyesight is intact. My neck is unbroken. There are no stones on me, no swords through my guts. I am an ordinary woman, and I deserve my immortality. I am meek, and the earth is mine. Martha!
Yes?
Martha, you need to do something with your life.
Yes.